It was November 9th, 2013. I still remember the exact date. We all walk out of this trailer and we start walking to this, what we thought was a fair or carnival. We are all three automatically pulled into this liquid lake of fire. This fire, the flames was red and they were still. They did not move at all. I just kept repeating one sentence. Please let me go. Please let me go. Please let me go. Please let me go. But in the deepest, darkest voice, he said, "You took the life of a human being."
Welcome to God's Voice Daily. I'm your host, Vladimir Proknevsky, and this is the channel where I share daily phone calls with people from around the world who've had real supernatural encounters with Jesus, angels, demons, and everything in between. Some of these calls go on to become full episodes on our main show called God's Voice Today, but here you will hear them raw and unfiltered, just the way they happen. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's featured call. Enjoy.
Well, James, I was reading through what you submitted. Sounds like you had an experience, a hellish experience, right? Can you tell me more?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so it was November 9th, 2013. I still remember the exact date. That's how intense this experience was. So anyway, I was staying with my grandmother at the time in her apartment, and it was just me and her there, and it was just another typical day, nothing out of the ordinary. And it was about 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And I was in my bedroom, and at that time, I hadn't lived with my grandmother that long, so I didn't have a bed in my room, but I had a pallet down, like a few blankets. And I laid down on my pallet to kick back against the wall to watch some TV. And the only way I know how to explain what happened next was, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, everything changed. I was no longer in my bedroom. I was in a trailer. And it was me, and there was two other people in the trailer with me. And it was two people that I knew at that time that I hung out with and got along with. And so we're all three in this trailer, and one of them's a guy and one of them's a girl. And the girl is in the bathroom, and she was fixing her hair. And me and my buddy was in the living room, and we were waiting on her to get done because we had plans on going to this fair, this carnival. So a few minutes later, she gets done fixing her hair, and we all walk out of this trailer, and we start walking to this fair, or what we thought was a fair. And on our way there, we're looking back and off in the distance behind us, like to the left of us, there was like three people, like to the left, and then three people on the right, and then three people directly behind us. And we thought, they were just all people that was walking through the fair like we were. Okay, so when we get to this, what we thought was a fair or carnival, we are all three automatically pulled into this liquid lake of fire. And right off the bat, like we knew it was the hell. We knew where we was at, and it was just straight torment. Okay, so here on Earth, when we have a fire here on Earth, obviously the flames are orange, and they'll sit there and they'll like blow in the wind, and this fire was not like that. This fire, the flames was red, and they were still. They did not move at all. And the reason they didn't move is because it was like they didn't move because it was meant for us to know that they didn't move, because it proved that the fire couldn't be put out, if that makes sense. Okay, so the number one thing that I remember, like the number one worst part about it altogether was, for me personally, was the temperature. The temperature was so hot. It was suffocating, but it was just not suffocating enough to kill you because we couldn't die. if that makes sense. Okay, so we're all, we're being tormented in this lake of fire, and there's this. I don't know if it was a demon or Satan. I'm going to call it Satan because that's what it felt like it was. But okay, so we see Satan, and if I had to guess, this thing was probably, if I had to guess, about anywhere between 15 and 20 feet tall. And it was slender, and it had a stick in his hand. And okay, it did have two horns that came out of each side of his head. It kind of looked like a bull's head in a way. But okay, so the color of this Satan or demon or whatever it was, I've actually sat and tried to think of a way to explain the color of him. And I came up with a way to explain the color of him, and this is the best way I know how. I don't know if you've ever heard someone say white and black are not technically colors. White is all colors, and black is the absence of color.
Okay, I can see that.
Okay, all right. If his color had a name, it would be absence, in my opinion. Like, he was the absence of color, if that makes sense. Okay, so if you was to like walk up to a wall and look at your shadow on the wall, he was, and like times that by like 50, he was like that dark. It wasn't even black, he was dark. You know what I mean? It's like a darkness. So yeah, if I had to put a name on his color, if absence was a color, that he would be absent. But anyway, so a lot of times in life or on TV and whatnot, we see that Satan carries around this pitchfork, and on cartoons and stuff or whatever. Well, this thing didn't have a pitchfork, but it did have a stick, and this stick that he had was the exact same size and color that he was. It was like this stick was made for him. He was the only one that could handle it or whatever, and so, and also we had this like very, very strong feeling that this thing was without a doubt the king of this place. He was like the ruler. Like even Jesus himself couldn't like take over this place. You know what I mean? Like Jesus could come and save us from it, but like this was his place. He was the ruler of it. And so anyway, this Satan is up on this ledge, probably about 10 or 15 feet above all of us. And we're all in this liquid lake of fire, and we're being tormented. I mean, we're just burning and burning and burning. And he's up on this ledge, and he's pacing back and forth on it. And he's got his stick in his hand, and every couple of minutes, he would pick one of us, and he would stop, and he'd walk up, and he would take his stick, and he would barely poke us with this stick. And every time that stick touched us, we would burn like 50 times worse than what we already were. And this goes on, I mean, what feels like for an eternity. But, okay, so out of the next thing I know, a while later, I'm in this line of people. There's 3 people in line, and I'm the person in the back of the line. Okay, I don't know the 2 people who they are or in front of me. All of a sudden, next thing I know, the 2 people in front of me completely gone. I don't know where they went. I don't know what happened to them, but they was gone. I'm the first person in this line now at this point, and I'm looking up. I've got my hands behind my back, and I'm looking up on this ledge. And at this point, he is sitting in his throne. He's got a throne, and he's got like a gargoyle on one shoulder and a demon on the other shoulder, and he's holding his stick. He's sitting down in his throne. And okay, I didn't know Jesus at the time, I did not have any kind of relationship with the Lord. I didn't think about what happens to us after we die or anything like that at this time in my life. And so maybe that's why I didn't call out to the Lord or to call out to Jesus. But okay, anyway, I had my hands behind my back and I was looking up at him, and I just kept repeating one sentence. I just kept repeating, please let me go, please let me go, please let me go, please let me go. I probably said this 9 or 10 times. And then right when I got done saying that, in the deepest, darkest voice I've ever imagined in my whole life, and let me say, before I even say this, like, I have no idea why he said what he said, but in the deepest, darkest voice, he said, "You took the life of a human being." And then he stood up and showed no mercy on me with this stick. Okay. Now, like I said, I have no idea why he chose to say that, because obviously I've never taken anybody's life. Maybe in a way I was taking my own life at the time. I'm not sure. But when he showed no mercy on me with that stick, that was what jerked me back into reality, and I was back in my bedroom.
Wow. Was he speaking to you telepathically, or did you actually hear his mouth move?
Oh, I heard it like plain as day. Like, and that was the only thing he said too. That was the only thing he said. I have no idea, like I said, why he said what he said. But now, okay, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I've told a couple people, just a few people, close friends and family about this, and I've actually tried to make a video of it to share it with the public. And I swear I've tried 3 or 4 times, and every single time it was something would mess it up and it wouldn't let me. And I feel like that's the enemy, trying to, keep me from sharing it with people. And, anyway, so yeah, like I said, I've told like 3 or 4 people this experience that I had, and a couple of them asked me the same thing. They asked me, was I on drugs at that time? And I'll be completely honest. At that time in my life, yes, in general, I was. But on that day, I was 5 days clean. I hadn't done anything for 5 days. I remember that. And the reason being is because I was broke at the time. I didn't have no money to get anything, And so I didn't have anything. I was just laying around my grandma's house, just watching TV and, just hanging out or whatever. And but yeah, it was okay. It felt like I spent 15 minutes in hell. And I can honestly say, if that's what it was for 15 minutes, it was far worse than any 24-hour period of a real day on this earth, hands down. It was far worse. And I mean, I've had days in my life. I mean, when I was 15 years old, my doctor walked in and said, "I'm sorry, son, but your dad took a turn for the worse." And, that was my hero, and that's a bad day, but that was nothing compared to this experience.
What do you make of that experience? Why do you think it happened to you?
Actually, that's a very good question. And I actually ended up talking to a couple pastors and got some, a little bit of their feedback on it. And they had some pretty good thoughts. They said maybe at that time I wasn't living, the right way, and the Lord was trying to show me I need to turn my life around, or maybe he showed it to me to share it with other people, Now, I do know, at that time in my life, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I didn't believe in God. I didn't really believe in anything. And I didn't even think about what happened to us, like, after we died. I didn't care. I was literally living life day to day, just taking it as it comes, and whatever it was, whatever, Now, ever since that day, I have thought a lot more about what happens to us, like what happens to us when we actually die, and now, I try my best on a daily basis to keep a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. But I ain't gonna lie, I'm far, far from perfect, and I'm still not living the way I need to be, but I'm trying, and I've always kept 150% faith in the Lord, no matter what. And I make sure every time I pray, I tell him that too, I say, still got 150% faith in you, Lord, no matter what. And, I've been to a point in my life where I've literally felt like I was God's biggest challenge. Like I felt like God himself could be staring at me saying, you know what? I know I can fix you. I'm just not sure how I'm going to do it yet. And I have faith that he will.
Well, but, he's in the restoration business. If you can just submit to him, he'll fix anybody. But James, I'm curious, those couple people that were with you in this vision, were they still alive then? And did you share it with them?
Okay. Honestly, like once we was all three pulled into the liquid lake of fire, I never did see him again. I'm not sure what happened to them exactly. Like, and okay, for my personal experience, I know most people that have a hellish experience, they say they encounter like thousands of other people and stuff there. It wasn't like that for me. For me, it was like there was a person here and there. You know what I mean? Like
I've heard that before. There are different parts of hell where it's more crowded. But I'm curious about those two people after that experience. When you came back, did you share with them what you saw?
No, I never have, and I don't think it's a I wasn't trying to kind of thing. It's just I've never really talked to him again to get the chance to tell him, I guess you say. But yeah, I probably need to share it with him.
Yeah, I highly encourage you because if they were in that vision, probably not on the right path either. It would be helpful for them to know that experience because, wow, what it did for you, it can do for them if they're not walking with the Lord. But I'm curious, after that experience, so you have this hellish experience, you immediately return to your body in your grandmother's house, right? After that, like, did it feel like a vision, like a dream, or you had a hard time processing? Was it real life? Was it not real life? How real was it?
Okay, so, I know for a fact that I did not lay down to go to sleep. So therefore, what I've always called it is a vision. But, okay, I don't know exactly how to explain this, but while I was in the vision, it literally felt more real than this life here.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
A lot of people say that. What about the pain? Did you feel that pain?
110%. 110% felt the pain of all of it. Like it was torture. It was torment. Like we was burning and burning and burning. And like I said, like every time he would just barely poke us with that stick. And when it did, it was like a fire catching on fire. Like it was bad.
How did you move forward from that experience? So you returned to your body. You're probably like, what just happened? Did you brush it off or did you have like PTSD for months after that?
Okay, so I was getting ready to be 29. It happened 5 days before my 29th birthday, if I'm not mistaken. And I was a grown man and I called my mom. Okay, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, you are not going to believe what just happened to me. And I went on to tell her the story and she was like, wow, bub, that is crazy, and I was terrified. I was scared that I was headed to this place. And if I was, I didn't want nothing to do with it. And I wanted a way to turn it around, And yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I've had a crazy, I ain't gonna lie, I'm 40 years old now and I've been through, quite a bit of stuff in my life. And I did hear God speak to me once finally after I, finally started having faith. And I was so tuned in with myself one night and I was in my mom's bathroom in her apartment. And he said, and to this day, through the drugs and without the drugs, through everything in my life, I can honestly say it's the only time I've ever heard a voice in my entire life. And he said one sentence, and it was like, a lot of people say it was exactly like what people say. It was a loving voice, but it had authority in it also. Excuse me. And he said one sentence, and I was staring into my own eyes in my mom's bathroom mirror. And it was like I was staring so hard, I was staring into my own soul. And he said, I know every time you open a door. That was the only thing he said. And I tell you what, honest to God, that voice came from the left side of me, the right side of me, behind me, in front of me, and from the sky, all at the same time. Like I couldn't put my finger on which way, you know what I mean? It literally sounded like the universe said it. And it was like, wow. I mean, that's all it took. And from that day on, I mean, I have literally kept 150% faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, no matter what. And I mean, I've been down in my life to times where, I was cussing him out instead of praying, and, it's been quite a ride, but
it's hard to be unchanged after an experience like that. But what do you make of that? What the devil, whatever that creature thing was, told you, says you took a life of a human being. I wonder if that was a path that you were on, or if there'll be a time in your life where there'll be like almost a decision where you can take somebody's life, and it will kind of come to your remembrance or something like that. Interesting. Have you had any time processing that? Like, what do you make of that? That's
a very good point. It's actually had me completely stumped all these years. Like, because, I'm sitting there thinking, like, why would he have said that? Like, I've never in my life could I even imagine, taking somebody's life or anything like that. Now, the only thing I could put a maybe on is like, maybe he meant I was taking my own life, because he said I took the life of a human being, Well, maybe I was taking my own life, or like you said, maybe on the path I was on is, I was going to come to a decision to maybe in a situation where I could, and oh my God, I would never I couldn't imagine doing something like now. Maybe at that time in my life, though, maybe.
Well, maybe it could have been to overdose. You were doing drugs and things of that nature. So maybe, like you did say, taking your own life is the same as taking a human being life. So that could be interpreted the same way. But another thing you said was, which is interesting, how you described the color, was that he was colorless, almost like absence of color, right? And I can't help but think of hell as like the opposite of what God is. God is good. There's nothing good there. It's like absence of God, absence of color. Color is good, right? We look at color, make us feel a certain way. We can, a well-designed picture, something, with color, it can bring so much joy and peace into you. But yeah, that's kind of how I would imagine a demon, colorless, just absence of God, absence of color, good.
Yeah.
Well, that was an interesting description. I've never heard of it that way, but makes so much sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, he was like the absence of color. Like that's the only way I could figure out to put into like human words, on how to explain his color. He was just like the absence of color.
Another thing is, I grew up in Eastern Europe. I'm originally from Ukraine. I moved to the United States when I was 12, almost 13, back in 2000. And growing up in Eastern Europe, just during that time, it seems like Eastern Europe is colorless. There's like a lot of gray, not much color. That was the first thing that I noticed when I moved to the United States, how much color there was. People were smiling. But when you're around that environment when it's so gray, a lot of Eastern Europeans don't smile much. How much it affects your attitude, your mood. And
Right.
so it's like, yeah, well, that's what hell is. It's absence of good, absence of color, absence of everything that's from God. Well, James, listen, man, thank you so much for scheduling this phone call. Thank you for sharing this. Do you mind if I share this with the world?
No, I mean, I encourage you to, if you don't mind, because the way I see it is, okay, if my story helps 1,000 people, that would be wonderful. If it only helps one person, that would be wonderful. You know what I mean? Like, either way.
No, man, if it takes just one person away from that place, it was
Just
worth
one
the time.
person, that would be awesome. Yes, absolutely.
James, thank you so much for your time, man. Drive safe.
All right. Thank you so much,
Take care.
Vlad. Have a good day.
You
All
too.
right.
Bye-bye.
Hey, if this story moved you, there is definitely more. Every day, someone new shares their supernatural encounter with Jesus. So hit subscribe right now and don't miss what's coming up next. And if you're ready for another powerful supernatural testimony, tap the next video on your screen right now, and I'll see you there.